go. Ultraman's butt. Let's talk about Shin Ultraman. Alan, you saw it in the theater. It was a Fandango event that when I first booked tickets for this, there was one showing at 7 p.m. on Thursday. Suddenly that showing filled up. They added 4-5 more showings of it, and it's packed with Ultraman fans. I saw it last night in a theater. I'm so happy I saw it in a theater. And the story of Shin Ultraman is basically a retelling of the origin of Ultraman, based on the 1966 Ultraman television series. And I am a big fan of that series. Ultraman at the time was played by an actor named Akihiko Hirata. Akihiko Hirata played Ultraman in that series. I got to meet him. I met him actually at here. I'm gonna show you this, Alan, real quick. Wait, how do I do this? We just figured out how to do this. Okay, cool. I'm gonna put myself full screen here. This is Akihiko. I got his signature. He looked debonair. I mean, he's in his 70s and he looked just like really in great shape. And then I got a photo with him. Maybe it's on my social media somewhere, where he posted, like, I was doing this sort of Ultraman when he shoots the rays out of his hands. He corrected me when we posed for a photo. It was great. And also while I was there, I also got a signed photo of course, Tommy Wiseau. There you go. Look at that, Tommy Wiseau. But look, I'm a fan of the old 66 show. It was something I watched growing up. It's also not diverse. It's just Japanese people in the show. Japanese people. And I loved it. I mean, the first episode actually has an origin of Ultraman, where Ultraman, there's monsters attacking Japan, and there is a group of people called the Science Patrol, and they dress like California highway patrolmen in orange, if you recall. So the Science Patrol have these rocket ships, and whenever there's any sort of danger involving a monster in Japan, the Science Patrol is on it. And Hayata is a member of the Science Patrol, and he is accidentally killed by Ultraman as he enters Earth's atmosphere. He's accidentally killed. Ultraman feels responsible, and he fuses with a human. And so now Hayata has this secret where he throws up what looks like a microphone, a portable microphone. He flicks it, and then he turns into Ultraman. But he can only be Ultraman for a short amount of time because he uses so much energy being Ultraman and transforming in that way. Well, Shin Ultraman is effectively the same story. They don't call him the Science Patrol. It's like the
SSSP, yeah.
SSSP or something, but it's effectively the same thing. I really wish they had done like the orange suits, but it's effectively the same thing. They show this montage at the beginning, which is great, of monsters and the Science Patrol basically dealing with all of these crazy monsters, coming from beneath the Earth's surface or water or whatever. And these monsters, they say it's because of the way that humans have dealt with climate. So now these monsters have all emerged. So they've created this organization to deal with the monsters. And it's funny. It felt like the interplay between everybody felt like an anime. The way that the dialogue, it was like quippy and funny, lots of jokes, but also they still dealt with the seriousness of what was happening. And I should point out that there are no rubber suits in this. It's all the special effects are done digital, but Ultraman has creases on his costume, just like the vinyl costume had in the 1966 show. So they do the monsters, and even though they're digital, they make it look like it's a person in a suit. It's so cool. It's such a great reference. Even when Ultraman will like go and fly in the air, he sort of, in the old 66 show, they'd have like it was just like a model that they would just run along fishing wire, right? And they did the same thing. It was just like him in this sort of frozen pose. It's digital, and he's just flying through the air. So they looked at it. It's similar to when they used Yoda. So Yoda in, The Empire Strikes Back is a puppet, right? And so when he opens his mouth, it's just, these are the words. There's no nuance in the way he's speaking. So when they made Yoda digital in Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, there was a lot of discussion. You can see this on the behind the scenes making of like, well, people in your head, you're used to Yoda being like that's how Yoda talks, right? But that's not how people's mouths move or how people make expressions. So there was a lot of like, discussion of how should Yoda be portrayed in digital? Should he kind of look like his Muppet self or not? But they really made a great choice with that. And so it's effectively a retelling of that story, but in modern times where it's taken a little bit more seriously. There's no diversity in this, but I loved it in spite of that. And it's just so much fun. It was a blast. The audience like clapped and applauded. It was a packed crowd of Ultraman fans. I saw it with my daughter and I brought this. This is like a recent recreation. It's like they do like these Mego recreations. Now, here's a question for the chat. Do I keep this mint in box? This was issued for the 55th anniversary of Ultraman. Do I keep this mint in box or do I open it?
Yeah, I think the question is, why didn't you buy 2?
Well, yes, I didn't, but I have it. I'll let the chat decide. Alan, I don't know if you're as big of an Ultraman fan as I was. I watched it like after school every day. I'd come home from school. It was on 5 days a week. I loved Ultraman. There was the monster of the week. There was like a cheesy monster where they basically just used the old Godzilla costume, but put like some weird sort of fleshy like shield over his back, or like they would like, it's like, oh, what's in the Toho monster closet? They would just like mix and match like monster costumes that they already had. So it was kind of cheap, but I love the interplay with like the Science Patrol. It was over in a half an hour, like, or you can look up old. What's that?
It's under 2 hours, just under 2 hours.
No, the movie is under 2 hours.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the TV show was like 30-minute episodes,
Yes.
which was great. And I loved it. I watched that. I watched the Batman 66 TV series. I watched a lot of TV, after school when I was growing up. But I don't know if you're as big a fan as I am.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird because I do remember as a kid watching Ultraman, and it was like right up there with Godzilla. I appreciated it. I think I was much more into Johnny Sacco and his flying robot, just because it was about a kid who had a giant robot. And I think that's what that's what attracted me to that property over the other ones. I'll say this. I think anything positive I have to say about Shin Ultraman feels like it'll come out of more nostalgia than anything. Because there's a point where it's like, this story is just not doing it for me. The conflict resolution in this movie, how he defeats the first villain, I forget the name. I'm like, that seemed very quick, and like I don't understand how that happened. I don't want to ruin it, but it was like, all right. And then it's like it reminds me, yeah. Sorry, I feel like I'm gonna be disappointing a whole lot of people here, but
no. Here's what I'll say. We'll at the end we'll decide, make the final judgment on whether I'm going to open it or not. But I will say the first half of the movie was great. It was funny, monsters.
The first kaiju fight. I mean, that little monster was amazing. Right. I love that.
It was great. And then and then it goes off into this weird thing of like how like they try to turn Ultraman into a villain by creating a double. Then they somehow realize that there's a multiverse. I don't know why this element was added, and people on Earth can be made into giants. So one of the people from the Science Patrol, a woman, is made into a giant, and it's ridiculous. It's funny.
The best part to me, the best part of the movie was, okay, so they make her this giant. She's wearing these short shorts, these very, very short, a very short skirt. She's walking over you, and you can only imagine when a woman in a short skirt giant woman walks over you. And then the next line is literally, let's get closer for a better look. And I'm like,
no, they were making fun of upskirt, like upskirt shots, which is like something I guess that happens in Japan.
Yeah, and then she kicks a building and she's frozen in this position where her leg is up in this in this short skirt, and you just think, they go, boy, I'm all of a sudden turned on right now. And,
Well, it was the one thing they did is they leaned a little bit too much into the comedy, which I like. It
Mhm.
just felt like the movie felt like a live action anime. That's
Yeah.
on the line delivery, and I think this has to do with the actors because I saw the dubbed version. I
Yeah.
didn't see the subbed version. And this is a movie I definitely want to get when it comes out because I want to look at more behind the scenes.
Mhm.
But I had a good time in spite of the fact that I think the second half kind of lost it,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
the ending was kind of anticlimactic. But the opening is so great. The first half of the
mhm.
film is just awesome, and they're like
Yeah.
that one woman. She's kind of obsessed. They would show her butt and show her adjusting her butt, like adjusting
Oh,
her
and
butt
and and
skirt.
everyone was slapping each other's butt, even the women.
Right, right. It's so it was weird. Like, it's like, all right, I guess it was maybe it was some sort of weird in joke, but I thought it was funny. Like the audience burst out laughing during a lot of the stuff and then applauded during the monster fights, but it needed a big climactic monster fight at the end. It kind of built up to what could
Yeah,
have been one. And
it's. I mean,
I don't want to ruin it, but
the thing I associate a lot with the older Japanese, kaiju, Godzilla, and all that. They're very humanist tales, and I think
right.
the ending really leans into this idea of humanism. Um, the other thing is, did the constant use of the phrase multiverse, did that bother you at all?
Yes, it did. It
I
was
know
weird.
it's like Marvel has ruined the word multiverse, and now you hear it in some other property. And it's like, oh god, multiverse.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think it's just being overused now.
yeah,
So
the thing that I liked the most were the conversations, and not the conversations themselves, but how they were shot. It's if you watch it and you look at this is a classic example of how you tell stories using a camera. It's you in this conversation, people appear through office chairs. So you have the loop of the office chair, and then here's the person talking. Um, and what's happening is that as everyone says a line, they're put in a different position on screen where the majority of the screen is black, and so your eyes are constantly following the dialogue visually.
but I love the way it was shot. The
Yeah,
humans.
but no, I'm saying that's classic. That's what they teach you in film school,
Mhm.
how to shoot a film. You never just have a person talk head on. So a lot of the angles are shot from above, from below. Every shot in this film, especially during dialogue, is shot at interesting angles, and that keeps your mind engaged with the conversation that's going on.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed that aspect, and there were some just weird shots where they'd show a phone, but it was like from like below, and you see like like just like it was just shot in a weird way, and I felt like
Mhm.
it had an I just felt like anime to me. It
Yeah.
felt like the live action that is felt like it was shot and presented as a live action anime with sort of some with stuff that's kind of ridiculous. But look, to see Ultraman on the screen like this
Mhm.
portrayed this way with like it's completely accurate design wise to the original 1966 TV show, which ran for several seasons. I also watch Johnny Sacco and his giant robot,
Yeah.
both like the movie, and it's on Prime Video right now, actually.
Oh, no kidding.
The
Okay.
movie in Japanese, which I never saw as a kid. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
But no, I grew
Well,
up
I'm just
watching.
saying that my good feelings about it felt more nostalgic than it was about the actual film that was.
Right, right. I felt like it was like a great slice of nostalgia. And if you loved Ultraman, the original show, you will love this, in spite of the fact that, like, I do think it's like has maybe a less than satisfying ending. I still
Mhm,
really enjoyed it. I also like Shin Godzilla is way more serious. That's why I expected this. Maybe are they going to do a serious take on Ultraman? How are they going to do this?
mhm.
And they didn't do that ultimately, but I enjoyed it nonetheless.